Hello, hello. My name is Rasie. Welcome to another author's journey interview, a bit of a tongue twister. And a little bit about me. I support aspiring authors anywhere from idea to publishing. And that entails the writing piece, the development process, the formatting. I have a whole team that I work with. And then on the other side, when I'm not book coaching, I'm also working with organizations supporting with leadership needs. Either it's training, coaching, development, or events like seminars, retreats, and workshops. I have here today with me Kabo. I am so excited to have you on this interview. And
Thank you. I'm
you're
excited to
welcome.
be here.
You're welcome. We're
Yeah.
gonna totally unpack your book. I have it right beside me here.
Yeah.
Finding meaning when God
When
speaks.
God
You can
speaks.
kind of see it. And
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It's a hybrid journal, a powerful book, and I'm really excited to for Cabo to share all about it. And I'm gonna move it over to you, Cabo, if you can introduce yourself a little bit so that everyone who's listening get to know who we're about to talk to.
Hi everyone. My name is Kabo, and I am a new author, I would say. One thing I didn't know was that I would be a writer one day, but it's something that God had been looking back, God had been preparing me to this. So yeah, I am so excited um to be working my mind in writing, because there's so many things that I get understanding on when God speaks to me, that all of a sudden makes sense. So I am very excited to share how God speaks, not only to me, but to everyone else and help people understand how God speaks to them and to find meaning in that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a great segue. Are you able to share just a short description about your book without giving it all away, but just a snippet, tease people a little bit for them to be like, let me go click on this link on Amazon, which the links
Yes.
will be in the description of this the full recording. Yeah, if you can share a little bit about finding meaning when God speaks.
Yes, so finding meaning when God speaks is actually a hybrid genre. So one part of it is a book where I share my experiences being a child of God, especially when I didn't know as a child of God, So it's a part of me sharing like my stories and how I realized that I was craving for something. I was looking forward to hear what God had to say about a lot of things, including the death of my father, right? But I just didn't know what God was saying. Sometimes I knew He was speaking to me, but I never could perceive what He was saying. So, as I was writing this book, it was mostly to the people who are longing for an understanding to see what God is actually talking about in their lives concerning the seasons in their life, right? And then the other part is a journal where you actually write down your experiences. And through those experiences, you get to discover how God actually speaks to you. So my stories are meant to like inspire you. They're meant to like to awaken you to pay attention to notice the things that have been there in your life. Um, I don't know if maybe for how long, but then they have been there in your life, but then God actually used that as an opportunity to speak to you about something. And I keep wondering what would have happened if you had pursued the thought that God put into your heart. And that's where I also explain about my experiences where I actually pursued the meanings where I thought that God was talking to me about something, and then I pursued it, and then it led to something even bigger, something greater than I would have ever imagined. So this is mostly about for the people who want to understand the
Mm-hmm.
presence of God in their lives. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because it starts with that willingness, right?
Yeah.
The willingness. I love the fact that you not only share the stories, but you also create the space in your book for your reader to journal
Yeah.
about their experiences.
Yes.
I think that's absolutely powerful because it's not just reading it, but it's
Yeah.
also bringing it back to self. Like, okay,
Yeah.
what are you experiencing? What are you paying
Hmm.
attention to? What are the signs? That's absolutely powerful. That's something I really love about your book. I might be
Yeah.
biased a little bit.
Thank you.
They're in the process.
Yes.
Um, what motivated you to reach out for support with bringing your book together? Because you already did a lot of work before you even reached out. Like you're like, I have my stories. Like I just need to help me with these next steps. What motivated you to reach out for support?
Well, I thought I had a story. To be honest, I thought I did. And I was so confident that, oh, this is what I want because there was a need from when I trace back to when I came back to God, there was a need. When I say when I came back to God, was that I was born a Christian in a Christian family, but there's a period in my life, like for about a decade, I was away from God. I was not going to church, I was not doing anything, but then God put me back. So when I came back, there was an intention, like in my heart, like I really wanted for God to acknowledge my return. There was that part of me when I said that, okay, I really want God to acknowledge that I am back. And I wanted it to be a communication where I would speak to Him, not only like random prayers, but I wanted to be able to hear back from Him. Like that sort of communication you have with like somebody who's your partner, right? To understand deeper things about God. So I said that, I really want to be journaling my communication with God because I would read my Bible and try to understand, like, is God speaking to me? Like, how you read your Bible and like, oof, what does this mean? Is God speaking to me directly right now? And what could this mean? So I wanted to like journal um, this your journey actually, right? I wanted to put it in the record to see how God was answering me and speaking to me, right? But when I looked around, I couldn't find like any book that was inspiring me to like write something intimate and deep because I would see well journals are everywhere, right? And they truly encourage you as well. They give you prompts, right? But it wasn't necessarily on the spiritual level that I wanted, because I wanted to a track record of like, okay, this is God working. This is what happened next. This is the prompt, that kind of follow up, right? But I didn't know where to start from. So eventually, after almost a year, that's when I met you, because one thing about when God gives you something to do, it never leaves you. Like
Mhm.
it keeps on badging you and nudging you until you find a way of letting it out of your sin. And then one time I was just like, if this is really what God wants me to do, I don't know where to start from. I need help,
Mhm.
So that's when you came along. And that is also like an entirely another story on its own, right?
All right.
I can't go deep into that right now, but then for me to like meet you, I knew that you were part of the solution, right? So I was like, okay, let's do this. And then there were so many ways that God confirmed this appointment with you that you had to help me with that. There's so many ways. And then of course I was like, okay, if God is paying for it, then why not? You
Yeah.
know? Yeah, so I went on ahead, but then the main reason was because I couldn't find a way of like expressing. I didn't know where to start from, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
to write this book. But really, it was all about me starting to write the book because there's so many things I discovered during the process, right? The things that I couldn't have known if I was just writing it by myself, if I didn't have that structure to say that this has to be published.
Mhm.
It's not just something that I'm writing for myself
Mhm.
because then I would have underperformed in a certain way, right? Like, oh, let's just leave it there. I
Yeah.
would have been afraid to confront some things, but I knew that God wanted me to write this. So there had to be an accountability on me, confrontations with my past and what I thought my truth was at that time, right? So yeah, I had to ask for help. And I'm glad that when I needed help, you showed up. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
things happen just in time, right?
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
like the saying, when it's God's timing,
Hmm.
nobody can cancel that. Nobody can push it
True.
away.
Hmm.
There's no fight. It's just, it happens. It happens
Yeah,
for us, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love how intentional you are from the moment you started writing your stories to publishing. And
Yeah.
that's something that I really appreciated throughout the process. You
Mm,
have a way of, you set the intention, you live in your intention, of this is what I want to accomplish throughout the writing process.
yeah.
Especially you mentioned the discovery, right? You
Yeah.
discovered a lot about you. And I
Hmm.
think there's power in, going into that process intentionally, like, okay, I'm gonna write for myself, and then
Hmm.
after I'm gonna put it out there to my gift it to my readers, right?
Yes.
But I think we always write for ourselves first as
Mm.
authors. What would you say was your moment of breakthrough? It could be moments. Please elaborate. Go tell us all about it. And what did that feel like?
It was moments for me, to be honest. It was moments, and I would say like that the most impactful one was when I was battling with God, literally contending with God if He had given me this assignment to write this book, because I knew that what I had to write was in so many ways different from the church I was born in, right? It was it was just like, oh, there's nobody who's going to either believe me or want to read this, you know. But then God kept on nudging me to write this book, and I wasn't sure because I knew if I had that confirmation that, that affirmation that I needed to write this book, I would give it everything. I would give it my all. I would sweat blood if I have to, you know. But if I wasn't sure, doubt makes you underperform, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is why I would start and then leave it, touch it again after a month, that kind of thing. But my greatest breakthrough was, and I share a little bit of this also in the book, that there was one day when I kept on like, asking God, like I prayed 4 times, and listened. Like, you have to tell me if this is my assignment, because that means you have already given me a provision for this, that there's a way for me to write this, not in my strength, but in God's strength, right? There's a way. But I guess one other thing was because I never thought I would write a book, you know? So it was always that battle, like, oh, I don't think this is for me. Like, God, are you sure? Is this really for me? That kind of thing. But then the main breakthrough was the next day. And I remember I was in church, and there was this young man that I knew. You know how when you meet somebody and then you can just tell that, wow, the Spirit of the Lord is with this person. And very first time I met this person, I noticed that and I knew it, right? But on this day, and it was just random. It was just like a few people sitting around, right? It was just random. And then all of a sudden he took the lead of the service, the devotional time what we were having. And then he came to me, he started telling each person, and then he came to me and then he told me that, you know, there are some things you have experienced that you need to put it in a book. And God says you must put it in a book. And you think it's not for your church, but it's actually for your church. And I was like, what? How could this person know that yesterday I was just literally fighting with God to confirm to me that if this is what I'm supposed to do? And then this person comes in, and it was the funniest thing because I was full of emotions. I was very overwhelmingly excited that God has answered me, and I couldn't see him. It was like I was seeing God speaking to me, like affirming me in that time, right? And then the other thing was like, I can't explain it, but it was just like two kinds of emotions. And then I just broke. down and screamed, like, with excitement, and then immediately started crying. I couldn't explain it.
Oh,
But,
let it
but
happen. Let it happen.
yes,
Yeah.
but that was my biggest breakthrough because it was the affirmation that I needed. Like if only you were so sure about God wanting you to do something, if only you were so sure that this is what I'm supposed to do, you would give it your all, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the word that I needed. And that was like my breakthrough. Yeah, that's the biggest one.
That is big.
Yeah.
And the word that comes to mind, it's like ask and you shall receive.
You
You
shall
ask, right?
receive.
Yeah,
Yes.
you ask for
Yes.
the answer. Is this something
Hmm.
I need to be doing? And oh my
Yeah.
goodness, that is so powerful. Like
Yes.
how God
Yes.
works through people.
Yes.
It's wow, wow.
Absolutely.
So what
Absolutely.
changed for you? Like after that, I just want to know more with this right now. And it might be something that I already know, but let's just ask the question for sake. And our audience are probably curious right now.
Yeah.
Like what happened for you after that breakthrough?
Yeah.
What maybe like what changed or what shifted in
Mm.
your process of producing this masterpiece?
That's a very good question because I wasn't ready for that. I thought that, like, even when I was praying before, I thought that it would just be like, oh, okay, now here's my word, here's my confirmation, and then everything would just fall smoothly into place, right? But then I went into this empty space where I was like, oh, well, now it's real. What am I supposed to do? Where do I start from? All those questions that I really did not know what to do next because I started feeling inadequate. I started like feeling like, oh, I don't have a story. I thought I had a story, but no, now I don't think it's even enough for like 5 pages.
Mhm.
It didn't feel adequate to write it in a book. But what I discovered was that what I needed to do was to just start writing because it was in the process of writing that brought me closer to God. And there was one thing I have to mention was that I had to be postured in a certain way in order for God to use me in the book, right? So there was the word that comes to mind is consecration. That is like setting yourself apart for that book. Like now I had to like set myself apart for this assignment. My schedule had to change. My diet had to change. A lot of things had to change. Even friends around me, like whom I was being in contact with, had to change because in that time I knew that, wow, this is so divine than I actually thought. So it was like everything around me changed. And most importantly, I changed because what God was revealing to me during that time after that confirmation was mind blowing. It
Mhm.
was so mind blowing that I never knew that that was inside of me.
Mhm.
Both the hurt, the bad things, and even how God healed. And God heals you after confirming, after, like, you have to first recognize what was broken. And confronting what was broken was the worst part. But the most beautiful part was how He was healing me throughout the writing process. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Ooh, that's deep. That's deep. It's oh
Yeah.
wow. Like that's
Yeah.
it's powerful in so many different ways, right? Because
Hmm.
it became real, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I've
Yeah.
gotten this message, right?
Yes.
And then you were mentioning with what was like happening for you. And I think
Hmm.
that's something that I see quite often to many authors is
Yeah.
just write and the
Yeah.
answers will come to you. And I love that you highlighted all the different things that had to change for you to be
Yeah.
able to do this. Because it's you can't just hop on it and like
No.
I'm gonna produce this book without laying that
No.
foundation. So
Mm.
I thank you for walking us through like what that looked like for your journey.
Yeah.
I think that's something that aspiring authors can take away is that you
Mm.
need to create the environment, the setting the foundation to
Yeah.
make this happen.
Mm,
Yeah. Anything you want to
absolutely.
add to that? Like,
There is so much I could add to that, but what I would say is that it's the process itself brought me closer to God.
mm,
And I'm just realizing now that it was the thing that I had been asking for all along, right? I had been asking for like God to like speak to me. I wanted to know that God is speaking to me and not just guess, right? Like I didn't want to be that in that space where I would always constantly doubt that is that God speaking to me and is that that? But during the writing itself, I was having conversations with God in the moment,
mhm,
and then He would prove it in many ways. Because one thing that happens is that God is in the spiritual realm, right? And everything that happens in the spiritual realm is the first. And then this earth manifests that physically, right?
mhm,
So if God gives you a task to write a book, to produce a music or a song or something, you are the last person to know about it.
mhm.
And you spend time doubting. You spend time asking God or asking validation from people. Do you think I can actually write a book? Or do you think I can write a script or something? You are
Mm,
the last person to know when it was already confirmed by God. But that confirmation is everything
mm,
because it gives you the right to take control like of the territory that you're in. You say that if God has given me this book to write, I'm
mhm.
gonna write it no matter what.
Wow.
And trust me, there were so many challenges.
Yeah.
There were so many
Oh, yeah.
challenges.
I
Yeah.
believe you. I
But it
believe.
was because of that word that I received that I kept on moving. Because
Mhm,
if God said, I'm gonna write a book, then no matter what happens, I'm gonna write a book.
mhm.
I know I've went all over the place there.
Oh, that's okay. And I'm so grateful that you said yes to that opportunity to
Yeah,
write and produce this book. I know there was so many different parts where I was moved and I'm
yeah.
like, this is gonna be powerful when it lands in people's
Wow.
hands who really need it.
Wow.
And the title itself like really speaks to it, like finding
Yeah.
meaning when God speaks and it requires us to pay attention.
Yes.
Mention. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also obedience, I would say, because
Mhm.
it's one thing to know what God is saying, but to follow it through, that's the biggest challenge as well,
Yeah.
through the obedience. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. The follow through. Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say to an aspiring author who's listening right now?
Mm,
I know so many aspiring authors who are stuck, either stuck or they're in stages, we could call it so many different things. And I believe that everything happens in its own timing. It's not time
yeah.
until it's time for
Mm.
them to put their book out there. But what would you say to them to help them through a phase of writing, the planning, or even when they're hesitating to publish? Like, what would be your advice from your experience?
Mm. Um, my advice is I think I heard this from you, but it keeps on making sense as time goes, right? You need to understand your why. Like, why are you writing that? Why do you think it's important for you to move it from your brain,
Mhm.
put it on a paper, write it out in a way that it makes sense, hoping that maybe somebody would benefit from that, right? And I'd say that if it wasn't for somebody, uh, somebody telling me, affirming to me, if it wasn't for God affirming me that I needed to write that,
Mm,
I wouldn't have published it in the time frame that I had to do it, right? Because doubt settled in mostly.
mm,
Is this really accurate? Like, should I say this? What are people going to think? There are so many things. So for somebody who is um writing, and it doesn't have to be spiritual or as spiritual as I wrote mine or as spiritual as you want it to be, right? It could be anything. It could be business,
Mhm.
right? But if God placed that into your heart, it's not for you alone. It's for
Yeah.
other people to benefit from.
Mhm.
And it's during the process that you get to understand what God has placed inside of you, because you get to discover a lot of things. And look at it as a mirror. As you are discovering yourself, you are discovering the one who placed that into your heart,
Mhm.
and that is God. All right. So you are discovering all this. It's not only just you knowing what you're capable of, but it's also you knowing God. And through that, you will get the help that you need to take it out, because it becomes too good to
Mhm.
hold it. It
Mhm.
becomes too good not to share. And if you are not sure, if it's something that you want it to be out there, especially if you're not sure if God is, I have a feeling that there's somebody writing a book. They are not sure. They're going through what I went through. They are not sure if it's God who has given them the task to do that.
Mhm.
And it could be that because it's not spiritual,
Mhm.
but it's something else. And
Mhm.
it's not bad either, right? But
Mhm.
it's just not what is expected of them by possibly parents or something like if you're gonna write a book, then it has to be this,
Mhm.
But God has impressed upon your heart to write something. If you are not sure, ask God to reveal to you why He has told you to do that. That God would show you people in your circles, in your spheres of influence. Like He should show you the people who actually need that. Ask God to reveal that to you, and that will keep you moving. Because if you think it's only for you, you would take your time writing it. But if God reveals to you whom it is for, you will understand why you have to push it out, and you will see the urgency in it. And He will answer you the question, why now? So you will understand that there's so many things. And I'm telling you, like, ask questions in your prayer time with God, ask questions. He will confirm to you why you need to do that. And if you need help, because most people don't know how to do it, like, ask for help. There's Rasie here, ask for help. Like, at least get to understand what it takes to write a book. If you're not sure, like, ask for help. Have an understanding of what it would take, and you don't have to, like, do everything by yourself. Neither do you have to have somebody do everything for you. Like, there can be a balance. Yeah.
That's a very that so much value in what you said. There's so many gems. That yeah, I think they got it. Somebody's got to go replay, right? Like line and listen in again. There's so many points you touched on. I can't even. I have nothing to add, and
Yeah.
I just love that, like your whole journey, it's beyond you. Like that's
Yeah.
the one thing that I capture from like this whole
Yeah.
conversation. It's when it's bigger than you,
Yeah.
you walk it and you get it done with
Yes.
God's guidance,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kabo, for joining me in your author's journey interview. A bit of a tongue twister there.
Yeah.
Where can people find your book or connect with you, all of that stuff? And I'll put links in the description of the at the bottom of this video.
Yes. So, well, first of all, I'm like so happy, and just to acknowledge you and your help. You have been like, oof, I don't know what I would have done, to be honest, like, and there's just something about your gentleness and your kindness, like, you are tender in your teaching, like, in your guidance, and other for like somebody who's like a beginner, it was way easier. And I believe that every time I knew why God chose you to help me, so I am really appreciative of that. And I hope that other people are able to work with you as well and see yeah, how they can work better. But you can
Thank
find
you.
me I'm on Amazon. Just search Finding Meaning When God Speaks. I know it's kind of long, but yeah, either that or my name, Kabo. I think that should work.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Search for Kabo. Yeah. That's Kabo. And then the other places, I think Instagram, the same title of the book or my name. Yeah. I'm trying to be more on social media, so I'm still trying to work things out. But yes, there's that, or also through email. I'm on cabo.findingmeaning8@gmail.com. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely put all of those links in the
Mm,
description on the YouTube full video.
mhm.
Kabo, thank you so much for joining me and having this
Thank you for having
conversation.
me.
And I know that it's going to go beyond, just the two of us and help
Yeah.
more aspiring authors reach their dream of writing and publishing a book. And I want
Mm,
to take a moment again to say congratulations in
thank
producing
you.
Finding Meaning When God Speaks. I'm very fortunate to be able to witness the whole journey of what happened for you
Yeah.
and in how you embrace all of it. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing in the world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I have one more thing to say, if
Yeah,
that's
go for
okay.
it. Go for it.
Yeah, well, we were focusing mostly on like aspiring authors or authors, but there are also other listeners
Mhm.
who are looking for help
Mhm.
in their careers, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Not necessarily writing, but it's like other things. And what you're looking for is it's so close to you. You just need like a confirmation or something like that, right? It doesn't sound nice to because it seems like I'm marketing my book right now, but when you read my book,
Mhm.
you will understand that sometimes the confirmation you need is within you. God is so close to you than you can ever know.
Mhm.
And there are things that when you go back a little bit, you would be able to see a track record of God's faithfulness in your life. And that's what this book shares. So there's so many breakthroughs that are going to come connected to you if only you can just tap into that understanding of God's presence in your life. So yeah, I hope I have said it the way I'm supposed to say it, but yeah,
Yeah, I love
that's what I needed to
that
share.
because it's not just for. I love that you felt called to and share that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right? It's because it could be listeners who are readers who are not
Yeah.
necessarily want to write or publish a book.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Cabo. And I
Thank
definitely want to
you.
say thank you to our listeners who paused in your day to listen in on this. Let us know in the comments how this resonates with you. And I really invite you to go check out, Finding Meaning When God Speaks, Cabo's masterpiece, and read about it. Check out the description, know what you're about to read. And also, if you've read it, don't hesitate to write a review. This is a great way
Yeah.
to even share the message, right? Not just to
Yeah.
Cabo, but also that other reader who's looking for a book like this one. And yeah, and I'll catch everybody next time. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Black sugar, black sugar.